titled this teaching tonight, She Said Yes. Because this moment with Moses and the leaders of Israel on the mountain, some of them on the mountain, some of them mid-mountain. Moses goes up the mountain. The rest of the people around the base of the mountain. Remember we said how like in Exodus 19, there's one verse that we almost viewed as God's proposal. That if you will keep my commandments, you will be to me my chosen people. And he wanted to make them a royal priesthood. And so tonight, it is as if the people said yes. They are confirming their commitment, but this covenant is confirmed and action is required. So we're going to kind of go verse by verse, and we're going to pull it apart. And so let's just start with verse 1. It says, "Then the Lord instructed Moses, 'Come up here to me and bring along Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of Israel's leaders. All of you must worship from a distance.'" What are the things that we're seeing happen in that one verse? Just spit it out. God says, "Come." Yep. Here comes the bride. Like literally, that's kind of how I think we're supposed to see it. God says, "Come." And Moses comes. What else do the people do? They worship. So a hike ensues and worship comes first. So this is a beautiful picture that God says, this covenant marriage, I've proposed to you, we've said yes, and now we are going to formalize this covenant, you and me, perfect God and the people he loves. And so he says, "Come up here," and then he tells them to worship him first. So then who are the people that are with him? How many people do we have? 74. Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70. Nadab and Abihu are Aaron's sons who, if you know I don't want to give you too much away, but spoiler alert, they're going to die because strange fire. This is going to come a little bit later. But for now, and how beautiful that God even knows Nadab and Abihu. He knows what's going to happen, and he still invites these two men up into his presence. Verse 2, "Only Moses is allowed to come near the Lord. The others must not come near, and none of the other people are allowed to climb up to the mountain with me." I have to stop for a second because what we need to have in our mind is when we hear this story, we think point A and point B, destination on the mountain. I think we're wrong in that. I think what we have to observe is we have to see along the mountain, there are different points of a mountain. So there are times where God says, these 74 people come up to the mountain. But here in verse 2, he says, Moses, now Moses, from here on up, you're the one that's going to come the rest of the way up the mountain. So don't think of the mountain as A and B. Think of it as A, B, C, D, E, and then like at the very top. So think of the mountain almost in stages, because I think that's what we have to view it as. And the amount of times Moses is going up and down. Here's one bridge we can cross. You guys, it takes work to climb the mountain of God. It takes work sometimes to be in the presence of God. Verse 3, let's see what we find in here. "Then Moses went down to the people." So where was Moses? Moses went all the way to the top, and he's hearing from God. Now Moses went down to the people and repeated all the instructions and regulations the Lord had given him. All the people answered with one voice, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded." That, in my mind, translates as, "I do." Do you take this God to be your God? I do. This is the I do for his people. What are the points that we see? What are just kind of the bullet points that stand out to you in verse 3? What happens? He's giving him instruction. Who is he? Moses. Yep. Moses is coming down. Moses communicated with God, and now Moses is coming down to communicate with the people. And in a minute, Moses is going to take the message from the people back up to God. Again, this old man's getting a workout. This is like Stairmaster on steroids. What else do we see there? Oh, I love that. That was kind of my thought too, is that the public sharing of the law happens again, and that unity and verbal agreement to obey is made. In this moment, in this verse, there is unity of the people. There is a verbal agreement that we will obey. So it is not that they said, I will obey. They said, we as a collective body will obey. Because remember, these laws are given to the people. Like, these were God's covenantal family. So it's not just a person, it's a people. Pretty meaty verse right there. Verse 4, let's see if you notice what happens in verse 4. Then Moses carefully wrote down all the Lord's instructions. Early the next morning, Moses got up and built an altar at the foot of the mountain. He also set up 12 pillars, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. What's happening? I know. A pre-dawn altar building session, right? The sun's not even up, and old man Moses is already, he's up before the people, he's up before dawn, and he's building an altar. What else does he do? Exactly. The 12 tribes are represented by the pillars. That's going to come in handy. We're going to want to hold that in our head in a second, that the 12 tribes are represented there, okay? So let's see what verse 5 and 6, we're going to read them together. Then he sent some of the young Israelite men to present burnt offerings and to sacrifice bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Moses drained, gotta listen close, Moses drained half the blood from these animals into basins, and the other half he splattered against the altar. So we look at this moment, here's how the things that I've read. We can look at this moment as a ratification ceremony. This ceremony where this relationship is ratified. It is, because remember, it's a picture of marriage, and this is the covenant. They are saying the blood is sealing the covenant, right? So the blood is applied on the altar and the people. Can you say ooh? Like ooh. Now here's something I read. I don't know if this is true or not. But one scholar I read, I did not read it out of multiple sources, but one scholar I read said, could it be that when Moses splattered the blood on the people, here's how I have always envisioned it. He takes the one basin of blood, because remember, he divided it in half, because a covenant is sealed with blood. And I don't want to get too technical or graphic, but even in the Jewish marriage ceremony, they showed proof that the covenant was ratified on the honeymoon night with a bloody cloth, and the best man would have waved that out the window. Gross, we don't do that. That's not our cultural practices, but this is what they would have understood eventually, what a Jewish audience would have eventually understood that picture to be. And so we take this image of half that blood Moses collects in a basin as the animals are being slaughtered, and he sprinkles it on the altar. And then what I've envisioned is it says he takes the other half of the blood and he splatters it on the people. Could it be that he splattered it on the 12 stones, thus representing all of the people? I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. And like I said, I didn't read that from multiple scholarly accounts. I saw that in one commentary, and I thought, like, that made sense to me. But either way we want to look at it, the sprinkling of the blood, it symbolized the legal transaction between God. Right here, God represented by the altar, right? And the people, which are represented by the stones. So Moses builds an altar representing God in his presence. And then he erects 12 stones. This is like the marriage when the bride and groom come down front and they are having their wedding ceremony, the altar is representative of God, and these 12 stones represent the people that God loves and wants to enter into covenant relationship. But what we see is the covenant established by Jesus was also ratified by blood, wasn't it? His very own blood, the covenant that Jesus made with us, was ratified by blood. Brent and I were just kind of briefly talking about this at the beginning of church. It says at the beginning of verse 5, then he sent some of the young Israelite men to present burnt offerings and to sacrifice bulls. Brent had a thought, and we kind of saw it in a different way, and we both could be right. I don't know. But his thought was that the 70 young Israelite men, was that some young men from each of the 12 tribes. But I've always viewed that as, since they were presenting offerings and sacrifices to God, that was going to be the future priests. Because remember, we don't have the Levitical priesthood yet. Next, what's coming next is God's going to lay out the design for the temple, or for the tabernacle, and eventually for the temple. And eventually because he wants them to be a kingdom of priests, right? But amongst this kingdom, this people group that he loves, there is that Levitical tribe that he is called to be his own chosen servants that will do the work in the tabernacle. And so I don't know, anyone have any insight into that, who these 70 men were? Were they representative from each of the tribes? And if you've got a study Bible, go ahead and flip to Exodus 24. Oh, okay. The 70 elders in the next verse. Verse 9, let's jump there. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel. That's the same guys. So that's not a different group of 70 people. That would be the same group. Okay, open your Bibles. Let's see what our Bibles tell us. Look at verse. I've got my NLT, and that's what's right here. Who's got a different translation? I have the New Living Translation, and that's what's on your paper. Someone want to pull up NIV? Okay, read us the beginning of verse 5 and the beginning of verse 9. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it's the same group of men. I don't see why 24:5 and 24:9. I don't know. I don't know. And they would have had to be strong enough to handle the animals for the sacrifice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I see that. That's interesting. I hadn't pieced that part together, but that's an interesting thought. I think the thing that we should notice is the blood, the sprinkling of the blood, and that this altar, it is a place of sacrifice. These are those two blanks. The altar, this place where this marriage ceremony is confirmed, where the altar is, and the 12 stones representing the tribes. This is a place of sacrifice, and it represents a place of commitment. And that's what a marriage is. Can I just tell you, if you're married and sacrifice and commitment are not the bedrocks of your marriage, it's going to be a faulty marriage. Sacrifice and commitment if it is all sacrifice and no commitment, if it's only commitment, then you're miserable for the rest of your life, right? If it's only sacrifice, pretty soon that's going to get old and you're going to walk away. But a beautiful picture that God is showing us at this marriage ratification covenant ceremony, I keep adding words to it, is that it is a place of sacrifice and it is a place of commitment. Let's keep reading. Let me jump back. We skipped over verse 7. Then he took the book of the covenant and he read it aloud to the people. Again, they responded, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded. We will obey." Now, I have to stop for a second. As I read that, if I go back to the way it might very well be that Moses splattered the blood on the people. Have you ever had someone come anoint your head with oil and pray over you? Okay, I'll just give you a little insight into my brain. When they're done, I always think, I got to wipe that off. I got to get that off, you know? I do. I've got a big spot on my head, and I fixate on that one spot. Like, I got to get it off. Imagine the moment if Moses literally sprinkled the blood on the people versus on the stones representing the people. Imagine that moment that they are standing there with blood splattered on their hands or on their cloaks, and them saying, again, this is the second time they say it, they say, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded. We will obey." And I think at this point, they actually mean it. Now, we have the benefit of hindsight, and we look and think, those bozos, and here soon, they're going to be making a calf and doing, and like cheating on the wedding night, basically, is kind of what that imagery is like. But I think here in this moment, they mean it. We will do everything you say. We will obey. Then verse 8, then Moses took the blood from the basins and he splattered it over the people, declaring, "Look, this blood confirms the covenant the Lord has made with you in giving you these instructions." Let me ask you, for the New Testament believer, what does that sound like? Listen again. "Look, this blood confirms the covenant the Lord has made with you in giving you these instructions." The Last Supper. We're supposed to hear that. We're supposed to catch on that link between these two. Jesus is saying that he fulfills the new covenant between God and man. The old covenant is obsolete. It is not broken and done away with. Jesus fulfilled it. The old covenant is fulfilled. It is done. He has entered a new covenant with us, also sealed with blood, but it wasn't the blood of a sacrificial animal. It was the blood of our sacrificial Savior. And then let's do this because we're getting ready to move into prayer. Open to Hebrews 10:22. I want you to, and it's on the bottom of your page. You can actually read it there. Would you read this out loud with me from the bottom of your page? Because I think it is so, like, this to me would be the covenant ratification words that I would speak. So let's say it together. Let us go right into the presence of God with sincere hearts, fully trusting him. For our guilty consciences have been sprinkled with Christ's blood to make us clean, and our bodies have been washed with pure water. Oh, that is beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Let's look real quick. The covenant is celebrated because there's, in this last half of the passage, there is a part here that as many times as I've read through scripture, I have missed. I love that I can read over and over and still catch new things. I don't know how I've missed this, though. Let me pick up in verse 9. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel climbed up the mountain. There they saw the God of Israel. What? There they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet, there seemed to be a surface of brilliant blue lapis lazuli, as clear as the sky itself. And though these nobles of Israel gazed upon God, he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate a covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain, stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone on which I have inscribed the instructions and commands so you can teach the people. So Moses and his assistant Joshua set out, and Moses climbed up the mountain of God. Now I have to stop. I don't fully understand all the sequencing of events that happen here. Exodus is a little confusing with the sequencing. And if I felt like this when I was trying to map out David's life. Like, I'm so sequential. I want to go from here to here to here to here to here, and I want to see it, but I don't see it here, and I'm still going to be okay with that. Moses had already carefully written down all the Lord's instructions. And so now here God says, come up to the mountain. And what did he say? Come to me on the mountain, stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone on which I have inscribed the instructions and commands. Here's what I think could happen. Remember, there were 2 stone tablets. I don't know. I could be wrong. Did Moses have his contract that he wrote out? And then as he goes up the mountain, did God write his part of the covenant, which is the same thing, the laws, the 10 commandments and these covenantal laws that he gives them to live in holy and godly society together? Do we have are y'all tracking with that? Did Moses write his own, and did God, because when you buy a car, you get 2 copies of a contract, don't you? Is this what we're seeing happen? I think it could be. I don't know. Verse 12. No, I already read that. Verse 13, so Moses and his assistant Joshua set out. Verse 14, Moses told the elders, stay here and wait for us until we come back. Aaron and Hur are here with you. If anyone has a dispute while I'm gone, consult with them. Then Moses climbed up the mountain, and the cloud covered it. And the glory of the Lord settled down on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. What's going on? Like, I want to know what's going on for 6 days. Moses is covered in this cloud. What is he seeing for 6 days? We don't know. But it's fascinating to imagine. But on the 7th day, the Lord called to Moses from inside the cloud. Imagine that sound. To the Israelites at the foot of the mountain, the glory of the Lord appeared at the summit like a consuming fire. Then Moses disappeared into the cloud as he climbed higher up the mountain. He remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. So we see the covenant is confirmed, and now we see the covenant is celebrated, isn't it, in this last half? And the people of God, they get an amazing invitation. God invites them. That's that first blank there, an amazing invitation. The elders and leaders of Israel, they're invited to a meal. You guys, what do we do at the end of a wedding after the marriage ceremony? We have a meal. We celebrate. We eat at the reception. This is like a beautiful picture of the most amazing reception you can imagine. And I wonder what they ate. How good was it? This was a meal that filled Moses for 40 days. So beautiful. And covenants were generally ratified by meals. And we're not going to take time, but if you look at Genesis 26:31, Luke 22 talks about the covenant meal. What does Jesus do on the night he is betrayed? He is eating the Last Supper with his disciples, right? And then, so that's an amazing invitation, but what an amazing opportunity. The elders and Moses, they get to see the Lord. Now, we don't know how much, because all Moses describes is his feet. I just wonder, is that all they got to see? Because surely, if you see somebody that just blows you away, you were just blown away at their glory, at how amazing they are. Is the only thing you're going to describe about them their feet if you saw all of them? I don't know, but that's all Moses describes here, is kind of at his footstool is just this blue lapis lazuli, which is a stone that's going to be in heaven. What a precious thought. I don't know how much they saw of God, but whatever it was, they got to see God and they got to live. What bridges do you cross What bridges can we cross here? Worship team, come on up while we're doing that. Any bridges that you can cross? A bridge, when I say this, Miss Tony, what I'm thinking is this is not written to us, but it is written for us. And so this is not scriptural. God is not telling me to go climb a mountain. I'm not told to go slaughter animals and sprinkle blood over you. Okay? That's not the command in that verse. That's descriptive, not prescriptive. And so, but I believe whenever we read passages like this, I think that there are still principles that we can take that apply to them, that cross the bridge. That's why we do that every Wednesday. What's a principle that crosses the bridge from Moses to us today? And like I said earlier, the first one that I think, when I think of this old man going up and down the mountain, I think, man, in the morning, I'm getting up as early as I can. I'm spending time with Jesus. I'm putting in the work. I'm putting in the work to be in the presence of God. And it does take work. I don't want to get up most days when my alarm clock goes off. I don't want to get up most of those days, but I get up. It's like Moses climbing the mountain over and over. Every day I want to climb the mountain and I want to meet with God. Any other bridge you can cross? Ella. Yeah. Distractions. Yeah. I told Angela yesterday in a text, we talked about if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy or he'll distract you. He works well in distractions, doesn't he? What else? Good, Hala. Corey. Yeah. Serving God is not always easy, but man, isn't it worth it? Cannot even imagine life without him. Anything else? Yeah. Hmm. That's good, Jordan. That's good. Yeah. Alyssa. Yeah. Andy had them alongside of him to testify of what they had experienced too. So it was not just Moses and Aaron that were coming back and saying, this is what happens, listen to us. They had a score of people that could all testify to the same thing. This is what we saw and this is what happened. This is good. Anything else? I think the longer we sit, the more we could pull out of it because there is so much. I think this is loaded. I think this is packed. I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm going to take away tonight is that imagery of that altar being a place of sacrifice and commitment. And as faulty, God knew these people's hearts, you guys, and he still chose to enter a covenant relationship with people that he knew what they were going to do here soon. He knew exactly what they were going to do. And he still chose to enter a covenant relationship. And I think for me, God knows my heart. He knows my propensity to wander from my imagination, my desires to wander from him. And yet he still wants to be in covenant with me. He still calls me his own. He calls you his own. But an altar is a place of commitment and maybe recommitment. Like, I committed my life to Jesus when I was 8, and yet I'm constantly recommitting my life to Jesus. Why? Because I'm like a sheep who wanders. And so I want to recommit. And so it's a place of sacrifice that, Lord, there might be things that you ask me to sacrifice for you, and you are always going to be worth it. So let's stand. We're going to worship the Lord tonight. And we're going to worship the Lord. I encourage you to find a place to spread out. Right now, we are just literally going to lift up the Lord in worship. I encourage you to focus your heart as hard as you can. I'm going to tell you, it takes focus for me. It takes effort for me to focus my heart and attention on the Lord because my mind wanders. But focus your heart and attention and worship the Lord.